Hi, this is Mary Wisner from the Gallagher Law Library. This video is about researching tribal court case law. First, how many tribal courts are there? Well, there are 574 federally recognized tribes. I found one article that said that over 250 tribes have tribal courts. Another article said at least 188. How many tribal court opinions are accessible? It's really hard to say. I have found 152 tribes for which there's at least one opinion available. Some tribes have hundreds. If you're curious, I have a long chart that lists them all. It's linked from our Indian and Tribal Law Research Guide. Here is the document. For instance, we can see that the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribe of the Flathead Reservation has opinions available in several places. The tribe's website, the Montana Indian Law site, Fastcase, but only 2 cases, the Indian Law Reporter, Lexis, the Northwest Intertribal Court System, and Westlaw. On the other hand, the Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakima Nation has cases in only 2 years of the Indian Law Reporter, the early 1990s. When you're researching tribal court case law, you need to get ready to change your research habits. Federal and state courts have reliable, nearly comprehensive coverage in Westlaw, Lexis, and Bloomberg Law. There are other sources too, including court websites, Google Scholar, and Fastcase. You're used to being able to find a case from Delaware or California easily. Tribal courts are a different story. There is no comprehensive source. There is spotty coverage in several databases. Why should we care? Well, anyone who's researching Indian law and tribal law would want to know what issues are being addressed in tribal courts and how. If you're arguing before a tribal court, you might want to be able to find persuasive precedent because some tribal courts cite precedent from other tribal courts. There have been some studies. One study, published in 2014, looked at a sample of 208 opinions that altogether had 1,706 citations. Most of the citations were to tribal courts from the same tribe. 508 citations were to state and federal courts, about half and half. Only 10 citations were to another tribe's courts. But interestingly, for those of us in Western Washington, half of those were from the Tulalip tribes. Another study looked at a sample of 359 opinions from the 1990s. There, 10% of the cases cited a case from another tribal court. Consider these patterns. Tribal court cases are hard to find, so advocates often don't cite them. Advocates also may not look for them because judges don't cite them very often. But the judges don't cite them very often because they don't see them in the briefs from the advocates. If cases were more widely available, this might all change. Where can you find tribal court cases? If you're looking for material from one tribe, go to the National Indian Law Library's Tribal Law Gateway. This enables you to look at a tribe and find out where its materials are available. For example, if we look at the page for the Cherokee Nation, we find that its tribal code is available in these places. Its tribal constitution is available in these places. Tribal court opinions are available on the tribe's website, in LexisNexis, in Westlaw. Now notice that it says that the tribal court opinions are in CaseMaker. This is a little bit out of date because CaseMaker merged with Fastcase in summer 2021, so those cases are now in Fastcase. If you want to search cases for many tribes, there are several databases that will let you do that. In alphabetical order, Fastcase, Indian Law Reporter, Lexis, Northwest Intertribal Court System, and Westlaw. But first, you might be wondering why there have to be so many databases. Don't they duplicate each other? I tried to quantify this. I searched for, quote, domestic violence in 4 different databases. In all, there were 112 unique cases. No one source had them all. In fact, each database had at least one case that the other databases lacked. Westlaw had the most, with 82, but that left 30 cases that were not in Westlaw and were in at least one of the other systems. Let's look at these sources. Fastcase is available from the Law Library's homepage. It's also available to Washington State Bar Association members. It picked up tribal court cases from two earlier systems, CaseMaker and Versus Law, in summer of 2021. Here's where Fastcase is on the library's homepage. It's listed under Washington State and under United States. To search tribal court cases, select Jurisdiction, Tribal. We all know that tribal courts are not part of the federal court system, but that's the way the database is structured for now. Now you can run a search, and let's try searching for contempt of court. I get 111 cases. I can sort it by date or by relevance. If I open up the sidebar on the left for filters, I can see how the cases are spread among the different courts. 7 cases from the appellate court of the Hopi tribe, 11 from Navajo. If I want to go directly to the Makah tribe, I just click the box and then uncheck it, and I can go back and look at the other cases. The Indian Law Reporter was published in print from 1974 to 2013. A couple of years ago, HeinOnline scanned the whole thing so that now we have PDFs online. Again, I'm going to the Law Library's homepage. HeinOnline is listed in a couple of places. Let's go to it under Article. Now, I know that the Indian Law Reporter is in this collection called Indigenous Peoples of the Americas, History, Culture, and Law. But I can also search for it and say, let's search your catalog for Indian Law Reporter. And that takes us right to the source. Let's go back to that example of searching for domestic violence. This first listing just says Issue 8 Miscellaneous. We don't know what the source is. So we can click on Turn to Page, and we find out that this case is from the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation. So that was a tribal court decision. Item 4 in the list, though, says that it's from a section of the Indian Law Reporter on state courts. I can click on all matching text pages and look at one of the hits and find out that this was from the Alaska Supreme Court. Lexis has cases from about 45 tribal courts. The coverage is spotty. I'm starting on the library's homepage to go to Lexis. Now, it's not obvious how you get to the tribal court decisions, so I'm going to show you. I'm going down to View All Sources. Under Jurisdiction, I'm going to choose More. And there is Tribal. So here's our list of things that are classified as tribal. On the left, we can filter to cases, and we find that there are 45 databases. I'm going to add these as search filters. Now I can run a search, and it will just search those tribal court databases. Let's look for Indian Civil Rights Act. And now I have a variety of cases from the Navajo Nation, Oneida Judiciary, Navajo Nation again, Oneida again, Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Court. NICS is the Northwest Intertribal Court of Appeals system. It's a consortium of 15 tribes in the Northwest. You can browse or search the database. Here's the entry page. You see that you can browse by volume. So if you know that you need something from volume 4, you can just look at the cases in volume 4. You can also use the index, or you can search. Click on Advanced Search. Then you even have more advanced options. Let's look for a phrase. child custody. And here are the cases. Let's look at the first one. In the matter of A.N. was from the Hoopa Valley Indian Reservation. Now we're going to take a look at Westlaw. I'll return to this slide to review. From Westlaw's main screen, choose Practice Areas. Then choose Native American Law. And now choose Tribal Cases. Now you can run a search. Let's try habeas corpus. We have 131 cases sorted by relevance. You can sort in different ways if you prefer. You might not be used to playing with this option here. You see the lines and the down arrow? If you choose less detail, basically you just get the citations of cases. If you choose more detail, you get longer snippets. And if you choose most detail, you get pretty long snippets. The longer snippets are really valuable because of this phenomenon. If we click on a case, we get this horrible message that we do not have access to Thompson versus Gray Eyes. Our subscription does not include this content. Westlaw does not include tribal court cases in the University of Washington's academic contract, or the academic contract for most other law schools. But we can still search, and we can read this much. Moreover, if you find a case that you're interested in, you might be able to find it somewhere else. Notice that this case is published in Volume 5 of American Tribal Law, page 400. A project called the Caselaw Access Project has scanned thousands and thousands of case reporters, including most of American tribal law. We can go take a look at that. The Caselaw Access Project is at case.law. I love that URL. I choose case law, cases by jurisdiction, and then I scroll down to tribal jurisdictions, and we find out that they have 20 years of American tribal law. Our case was in Volume 5, page 400, so I can just scroll down till I get to 400, and there it is, Thompson versus Gray Eyes. When you first click on a case, you get their transcription of the original. You can choose to look at a PDF by clicking on PDF. The Caselaw Access Project redacted West Publishing's proprietary information like the headnotes and key numbers. But then you get all the words that the judge wrote, and you can see the original page numbers for your citation. Here's what to remember about Westlaw. Westlaw has 25 tribal courts, plus coverage for Oklahoma CFR courts. The full text is not included in our academic contract, but we can still search. When we search, we can often find a citation for the case, to look it up in the American Tribal Law Reporter, or we might find other clues to look it up on a tribe's website. To recap, there is no comprehensive source for tribal court cases. Several databases have some coverage, and they only overlap with each other in part. Use Lexis and Westlaw as you're used to, but also use Fastcase and other sources. We have a research guide on Indian and tribal law. The URL is guides.lib.uw/law/Indian-tribal. This has been Mary Wisner for the Gallagher Law Library. See our website for library services, research guides, and more.